One of the laws of inheritance that Gregor Mendel established was the law of segregation. What this law stated was that he believed that every individual had two copies of each trait, and we now know that these two copies, or copies of a gene, these are what we call alleles. Okay, so everybody gets two alleles, and he basically said that these two alleles are going to be separate from each other. So in other words, they're present on these two homologous chromosomes, which is the way we define them now. So what I'm showing here are the homologous chromosomes that would be within a single individual. They have two because they inherited one from mom and one from dad. So what Mendel was saying was that we have one version of the gene on this chromosome and we have one version of the gene on this chromosome. And I'm going to write them here as though this individual had two different copies here. They have a capital A and they have a lowercase a for this gene. The law of segregation basically stated that these are separate copies. So in other words, they are on different chromosomes or on different pieces of DNA. So they're separate, and if they're separate, they can separate during the whole sexual reproduction process. So specifically, they do separate during meiosis. And if we look at where they separate during meiosis, this is specifically going to be during anaphase 1. So let's briefly draw anaphase 1 so we can remember what anaphase 1 looks like. During meiosis, we're going to form tetrads. So we would get tetrads formed from these. So I've got my blue one and I'm going to have my green one here. And those are going to get lined up down the center of the cell. Remember that my blue one is going to have capital A's and my green one here is going to have lowercase a's. Now if we look at what happens during anaphase 1, that tetrad is going to separate and pull apart. So you will have the blue one on one side and you'll have the green one pulling towards the other side. Of course, some crossing over probably took place here, but we're not illustrating that in this diagram. So this one has the two copies of capital A. This one has the two copies of the lowercase a. So notice they pull apart. They move to opposite sides. And that's really what the law of segregation is all about. That you have these two copies of the gene, these two alleles. They're located on different chromosomes. Because they're on different pieces of DNA, they do separate during meiosis, during gamete production, and they move to opposite sides. Ultimately, they do end up in different gametes.